been holding on, fighting for my name. Years gone by, but they treat me the same. They reaching way back, trying to change the time, tearing up the lost just to see me confined. Memories fade, but the pain still stands. They don't care about the rules, they just want me to pay. A sentence too heavy, a verdict too cold. Breaking all
The
the
rhythm is
limits.
why they story unfolds. Where's the justice now? We all don't care in the courts aloud. Taking freedom like a thief in the night. Fighting for my soul, but they dim my light. Where's the justice now? The truth get lost and the lies so loud. I must stand tall even when they deny. Man, still a man in the Father's eyes. Statues written, made to hold the line. Past the land for time. 30 years heavy for a time I'm barred. And until it justice when the system's so scarred. It ain't just me, it could be you one day. They'll go post and take your rights away. Story of a brother they refuse to defend. This ain't the end. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you all. I pray everyone is up in their glory this morning, praying that you are all enjoying this wonderful day today we have on Worship Wednesday, and that you are in good faith this morning. You are in good faith this morning, and make sure you pray. Make sure you pray before you leave your home always, as you going in, as you coming in, and as you going out. And pray over your children, pray over everything, because we living in a world right now where just evil is so much around us. And we don't want to get caught off guard, do we? We want to keep our mind and our hearts fixed on Jesus. You don't want to get caught out there with the enemy. So you just got to stay prayed up. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who have trespassed against us. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thou you are the kingdom, the power, and all the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And I know by me posting this morning about immigration being revoked from some of the people who have naturalized here that are in America, but they don't seem to show any respect to this place, and they think that this place is supposed to, they have a right to just come in. No, it's a privilege. It's not a right. When you come to a place that you wasn't naturally from, You have a privilege, not a right. It's a difference. If it was a right, if you want a right, then your rights should be something you need to exercise in your own native country, even dying for it if you have to in your own country, if you want change in your own native land. And that's where we are tired of doing America. America, you weakening the fabric, you weakening the structure here, you weakening everything that is been built here in the United States when we allow people to come here after the people who have fallen, who have died, to bring us to freedom. These people didn't die for America. They were given the privilege to come to America. They were given the privilege, not the right, but the privilege. That's the difference. If Ilhan Omar and this other lady, Talib, whatever her name is, do not like our laws here in the United States and how it was framed in the Constitution, then they have every right to leave and try to exercise their fight in their own native country. This is why it's so dangerous to put people in leadership that was not natural citizens of the United States. This is why I say it's so dangerous, because you want to fight for your right. Your right should be in your own native country, not here in the United States of America. You given the visa to be in the United States of America is not a right. It's a privilege. It's a totally different thing. And this is what I like about Marco Rubio. And also I explain why I like Mark, and I also appreciate him being over this, because Marco Rubio parents were immigrants. They naturalized to the United States of America, and they showed a, their gratefulness. They showed how grateful that they were here to the United States, that they actually gave us their son as a gift to this, to show us their gratefulness, how they raised him up to be a person to take participation in this, and he was born as being born here. Marco wasn't born from the places where his parents came from. He was born in the United States soil, and they made sure that they raised up a good son. I'm not saying perfect, but something that they produced in our society that is good. That's the difference when we get these immigrants over here that come over here and they turn around and be scum. Nothing but trash. Nothing but criminals and people like that sit inside the Congress right now. People like Elon and Elon Omar and what's her name? Talib or whatever her name is. People like that. We don't look for people like that to stay in the United States, because you know why? They're going to raise children that aren't good. They're going to raise children to be people to turn against the United States of America. So you got to catch the enemy before they even strike. That's the difference of Marco Rubio and also Ted Cruz. They parents, when they tell their story of them coming from being immigrants, their parents being immigrants, that's the difference. They raised you in society to love this country, to respect this country, and to show them in a good way. Not in the way that people like Ilhan Omar are going to raise her children to be against the United States. And people also like the other one that came here from the United States or whatever, Talib or whatever. This is the fruit they produce. Jesus said it himself. A good tree would only bear good fruit, but a bad tree would only produce bad fruit. That's why they were not supposed to be in Congress. These are like the first generation of immigrants that naturalized. It's not like they parents were immigrants and naturalized here. They themselves are the first generation of immigrants that naturalized here to the United States. And this is why they should not be sitting in leadership in the United States of America. Because look at what's going to come up behind them by showing you who they are right here in front of you. It says that in the Word of God. Even President Trump tried to say it. President Trump was raised in the United States of America. Now, his parents came with immigrants. His parents were immigrants, but he wasn't an immigrant. You understand? He wasn't an immigrant. His parents were, but when they came to the United States, they built their life here in America, not where they came from, here in the United States soil. And by them doing so, his father building his real estate business, and Trump took it to the next level. And by they children, you see they fruit. This is what Trump is trying to say. Not everybody, just because they naturalize here, love America. That's why you got to see it through their children, not them. It's who they children grow up to be and how they show how they appreciate America and how they going to show they self approve. Their fruit, the fruit they produce, is the life they produced while they were here. Ilhan Omar and that lady do not belong here. I mean, I wouldn't say belong here, but I'd say they don't belong in Congress. This is why we don't choose first immigrants of a first naturalized citizen to the United States to be an American. And that's why I say Mayor, whatever his name, Zerani, does not belong in leadership in New York City. He naturalized, but he's a first time citizen of his home, of his family, to naturalize here in the United States. That's dangerous because these people have not really grown and developed enough to be an American. They still caught up in their own ideology of where they came from. Because when they came here, they didn't come here as children, young children, to go to school in our system and to grow up in our system. They grew up from their own system and they still going to keep that same mindset. People like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, they grew up right here in the United States of America. But I'm sure they still have their Cuban or whatever culture. It's just that's different. You could still keep your identity, but it's how you are to America. Point blank, period. They did not grow up in Cuba or wherever other South America or wherever they might have come from. They did not grow up there. They grew up in American soil and they were planted here. Their life was planted here. So by their life being planted here, of course, it's okay to learn about your Cuban heritage and your Cuban foods and your Cuban culture and everything else. There shouldn't be nothing wrong with that in America. But what makes it wrong is when you more of an enemy towards our government than a friend, and showing your appreciation for who you are as a Cuban American or Latino American or whatever. And even that goes for the same thing for Black Americans. Ain't no African in us. We don't speak the language. We don't really, we might listen to the music and all of that other stuff. We might have some African, you would say, let put it this way, you have some African heritage, but we don't speak the language at all. Most Black Americans here don't speak the language because we grew up on this soil, and the only language we speak and the only things we do is American. And it's a difference between us being African than being American. A totally different. We have our own culture. Now, only thing we probably would share with African in identity is our skin color, maybe some of our features, our hair, and that don't make us the same. We're different because we were brought up here on the American soil. We were born and planted here in the United States of America, nowhere else. All our history is here in the United States. All our grandparents, great grandparents, and great 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 grandparents. History is right here in the United States of America. Even if they came from Africa, they still, everything started here for us. This is where our roots are, right here in the United States of America. We don't speak the language. We don't practice the traditions from over in Africa. We practice our traditions here in America. That is who we are. And that's where people get confused. Ilhan Omar and that other lady, what is her name? Do I have her picture here? This one here. These people don't belong in Congress. They don't get the real understanding of what it is to be an American. They still carrying a lot of things that they came up with from their own country where they come from. It's not in them. And by them leading this way, if they got children, it's not in their children either. You better believe it. Just by the way they act is the same way their children gonna act. They said the hen that rocks the cradle rules the world. And when they have their children, they teaching their children to grow up to hate Americans too, because it shows by their actions. I don't care what the Democrats feel. They should have said they should disagree. They should say no. We was given the opportunity to be Americans, and regardless who's president, we are not going to participate in saying the things. Just like we didn't do it to Obama, we didn't do it to Clinton, we didn't do it to whoever else was president. We're not going to do it to President Trump because we want to be grateful enough to show that kind of kindness. You shouldn't have to follow everybody because they doing it, but you should have the sense enough to do the opposite from what any American other child is doing in that Congress. You should always look back and say thank you because you was given the opportunity, and you should show your gratitude by not taking part with the wickedness of the others. My mother used to always tell me, I don't care what that child is doing in that classroom, don't you do it. Don't you ever be a follower. Be a leader. And that's the point that they're missing with Elon and with this woman right here. You wasn't from here. You're not naturally from here. You wasn't born here. But you should be grateful that you were given the privilege to be in the United States, to build your life, to have your children, and even have that opportunity to be a part of Congress. And you should lead in a better way, not like the way you've been leading, in the way you've been behaving in Congress. Maxine Waters, the same thing. She don't serve Black America. I'm sorry. Maybe at one point she did, but now, and I never really paid attention too much to her in politics. I'm just starting to get to learn things as I go along in politics. I never really was that heavy and deep into politics, but I have been watching lately since I've been seeing some things taking place in this nation, and I don't like it. And I just want to see why is this happening. And this is the only reason why I've been getting into learning politics and learning some of the faces in politics, because I didn't know a lot of things about these people. Never heard of them, never saw them before. None of that. None of that. I don't know nothing about their work they have done outside of where they sitting at now before they got to that seat. I don't know none of that stuff about these people. Just like I just quoted that Jesse Jackson, a man who was a Pan-African student from his youth, I mean, from the time he was coming up in college, and he joined the SCLC with the Baptist with under Dr. Martin Luther King. Jesse Jackson was a young man when he joined with Dr. Martin Luther King. He was still a student. He was still in his studies. And that was his work of Pan-Africanism. So he also added himself into the into the civil rights movement to build on his work in his Pan-Africanism. Okay? Because he knew it was black people that were oppressed not only here in the United States of America, but there were other people that were African that were also dealing with the same some kind of discrimination or oppression or whatever. So his work from Dr. Martin Luther King work was his work he added from America to go around the world to do his human rights studies or his fight against injustice or whatever. So that's why I said I don't understand how they building a library for Obama and not for Jesse Jackson. He did more for the American people, and especially for black American people and Africans, than Obama. Only thing Obama did was somebody gave him an advancement. He had people that was more in the game of paying for politicians to get ahead of other politicians that was more deserving. Jesse Jackson, I swear to you, and he ran for presidency more than once. Jesse Jackson ran for presidency twice. Twice. And even though he wasn't a president to the black people or to America, he still acted like one. And he was a good leader in my sight. He was a good leader. He didn't only just go reading for just to get the publicity or just to be seen. It was true passion. It was true passion in Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr. Because I remember him from my early years of growing up in education. He spoke at my elementary school graduation. And that wasn't something somebody else pushed him to do. That was something he did from his heart and from his own passion. He wasn't doing it to be seen. He did it because he wanted to do it and he wanted to pour something into us to believe in ourselves as we come up in the world, who we are. And not only did Jesse Jackson do his work here in the United States, he took his work beyond America. He took it to Africa. And he even worked to he even took part in getting free the hostages that was being held hostage in Iran. Go and see his work. Obama didn't do that. Only thing Obama did was being the president of the United States of America. And he done nothing for those people in Chicago, and those people in Chicago can't stand Obama. They can't stand Obama. Okay? But he's going to build himself a monument there for them to remember him. What kind of crap is that? Who does that? It's supposed to come from the people, not you. But if they want to build him a monument, but I think one should go up for Jesse. I'm sorry. A library, a monument, or something should go up for Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr. for to remember him in his work and what he contributed to this world and to America. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. But this lady right here need to be revoked. So should Ilhan Omar and anybody else who took participation in raising their fist and showing their hate towards the United States of America. And when you showing your hate towards the president, that's exactly what you doing. You hate America. Because I don't think no president should have to stand up there and tolerate this type of nonsense from any American. Now you could disagree and everything, but making threats and calling him names and all this other stuff, calling him a racist, calling him Nazi, calling him Hitler, and all that other stuff, that shouldn't be tolerated. I'm sorry, especially when you come from a failed country, a failed government, and then you come into the United States and they give you the opportunity here and you carrying on like that. What are you going to raise your children to do? Turn against America. Okay? That's exactly what it is. So yes, Marco Rubio should revoke their visas and deport them back to their country, and they could fight for their rights over there and their children, because we gonna catch the enemy before they even strike. If their children later on want to come back and be American, show themselves and approve, but the parents, they gotta go. They got to go. Okay, revoke their visas. That's the way I feel. Yes, 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 yes. Get them out of the United States. Get these troublemakers out of here. Okay? And with that being said, I gotta go because I haven't even really eaten anything this morning. I've been in my prayer and fasting, and the Lord put this on my heart today to share this with you. So please hit the like button. Share this video if this is your first time to the Casey McDaniel That Speaks channel. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell so when I do come on, you get the notification. So with that being said, I love you. God bless you and peace.